So we're going to talk about photosynthesis a little bit more in depth than what that internet assignment looked like. And I'll see if I can. Actually, I want to make this a little closer up for now. Whoa. Okay, so first of all, when it comes to photosynthesis, there we go. This guy's the chloroplast. This is where this is where everything happens, actually, okay? This right here, the stroma, this is the fluid-like substance. Inside the chloroplast. Okay, it's fluid, and it's very much like cytoplasm. Okay, the other part that's very important is this thylakoid. Okay, so the first part of photosynthesis, part 1, happens in the thylakoid membrane, and part 2 happens in the stroma. Okay, and we're going to break it down. This picture down here, and I know yours is black and white and maybe not as easy to see, but this just gives you an idea. This is the thylakoid membrane. It looks very similar to the cell membrane. So part 1, okay, of photosynthesis actually happens in this cell membrane. Okay, so we're talking about inside of the cell membrane, and then part 2 happens in this kind of fluid-like stuff. So I just want to talk a little bit about some general stuff, photosynthesis, and then we will get a lot more detailed on the back side. There we go. There we go. Okay, so the very first thing that I want to do is I want to start with our chemical equation. So CO2 plus H2O yields C6H12O6 plus O2. Now I'm going to put sun right over the top of my arrow because this has to occur in the presence of sunlight. Okay? Can everybody see? Are you okay? Does it need to be bigger? No? Are we okay? Okay. So this stuff right here, this is glucose. Glucose is the sugar that's made. These guys right here, these are my reactants. And these guys right here, these are my products. Okay, the first stage, there's 2 stages of photosynthesis. The first one is called the light dependent. Let me try that again. Light dependent. Is RXN okay for reaction?
Yeah.
Okay. So light dependent reaction. This means that light has to be present for this to happen. So if we don't have light, the light dependent reaction is not going to happen. Okay? So the light dependent reaction is going to happen in the thylakoid membrane. Of course, light is necessary. Another key player is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, this is a pigment or molecule that absorbs sunlight. You guys remember what color of sunlight? Yes.
Oh, what does it say right under light dependent?
Thylakoid membrane. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Is that a little bit better? Okay. And you're more than welcome to come sit next to Aaron if you need. So, chlorophyll is the pigment or molecule that absorbs sunlight. Do you guys remember from yesterday's assignment what color of light does chlorophyll absorb? Red and blue. Very good. Okay. Sunlight. I'm going to put red and blue. The reason why plants are green is because green is the color of light that is reflected and not absorbed. Okay. Stop right there. Okay, so our next stage is called, move this up, it is called the light independent reaction, meaning it does not need light to happen. Okay, this guy happens in the stroma. He is also known as, aka, the Calvin cycle. Cycle with a C, not an S. So the Calvin cycle. He's basically named for the scientist who discovered it. Okay. Sometimes they say it's the dark reaction. Sometimes they call it the dark reaction. I just don't like the term dark reaction because it implies that it has to be dark for it to happen when that's not the case. It's just, it can happen, but light doesn't have to be present. Okay, so I like to say Calvin cycle or the light independent reaction. Okay, so what we're going to do is I have diagrammed out, okay, I've diagrammed the stroma and I've diagrammed the thylakoid membrane on the other side. So we're going to flip this over and I'm going to adjust this so you can see my whole diagram. Yeah, there's the back side. That's the most important part. I guess I can do one at a time. There we go. You guys see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm going to kind of put a squiggly line right here, and I'm going to put a squiggly line right here. So from this spot to this spot, okay, from the blue squiggly to the blue squiggly, that is my thylakoid membrane. It's like we are inside of the thylakoid membrane. So I'm going to put the room, I'm going to say, I'll put it right up here. Thylakoid membrane. Okay. Now, down here, all this space down here, okay, and I'm just going to put an arrow here. This is my stroma. So this is the fluid part, and this is inside of the membrane. So we are going to start inside of the membrane. Okay, so inside of the membrane is step number 1. I really hate this thing. Prefer to be on the board. There we go. Step number 1, this guy, all of this is the light dependent reaction. Okay, and down here is step 2. This is the Calvin cycle. Okay, so again, we are inside the membrane. Okay, this structure right here, this is a protein. That square thing is a protein, and this square thing is a protein. They have special names. This first protein is photosystem 2. That's the name of that protein, photosystem 2. This guy, this protein right here, this guy is photosystem 1. And the reason it is in that order is because this guy was discovered before this guy, and they just left it like that. Okay? Okay, so the first thing first, this right here, this represents chlorophyll. And this right here represents chlorophyll as well. CHLOROPHYLL. Okay, so the thing that starts this off is sunlight. So I'm going to write sunlight right here. So sunlight comes into the thylakoid membrane and it buzzes or it hits the chlorophyll, and then the chlorophyll absorbs the red and the blue. And then what it does, now you have to remember chlorophyll is a molecule. It's made of atoms. Atoms have protons, neutrons, and electrons. So what happens is when the sunlight is absorbed by the chlorophyll, an electron gets excited and it jumps to a higher energy level. So this electron, an electron from this chlorophyll, gets excited and jumps to a higher energy level. I'm going to put E with a little sign next to it. Now when electrons, if you remember from physical science, you guys see this okay? Are you doing okay? Okay. If you remember from physical science, when an electron gains energy, it jumps to a higher energy level, and then eventually it comes back down to its original energy level. Okay? So this guy jumps to a higher energy level, he's excited, and then he goes down this sort of escalator, and he goes back and he joins this chlorophyll. So this escalator is called the electron transport chain. Easier, ETC, electron transport chain. So sunlight is absorbed by chlorophyll. Chlorophyll's electron gets excited, jumps to a higher energy level, and it goes down the escalator, the electron transport chain, and then it joins this chlorophyll. So then this chlorophyll gets hit by sunlight again. Another shot of sunlight. Chlorophyll absorbs the sunlight. Then his electron gets excited and he jumps to a higher energy level. That electron is going to move over here and he's going to be used in making a bigger molecule. We're going to get to that in a second. Meanwhile, H2O, which is a reactant, okay, H2O is breaking down. It is going to break down into oxygen gas, which is O2. It is going to release an electron. And it is going to release 2 hydrogen ions when this guy is broken down. Okay? That oxygen gas, that's the gas that we breathe. So that oxygen gas is going to leave the cell. It's considered waste. Okay, that's actually a waste product for plants. It's good for us, okay, but it's bad. It's plants consider it a waste product. Okay, so that's going to leave the cell. This electron right here, okay, this electron is like, he's like a substitute. He's the replacement player for the electron we lost here. Because didn't we lose an electron? It went from this chlorophyll to this chlorophyll. So this guy is a substitute. He's going to come off the bench and he's going to join this chlorophyll. So I'm going to put replacement. So this electron replaces the electron lost here, so the process can keep happening. Now, we come back over here. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. I know some people are struggling. That's a little bit bigger. Okay, so this hydrogen ion, okay, floats its way up to here. So put H+. And what happens is we have this electron, this hydrogen ion, and a molecule called NADP+. Okay, this guy, let's see if I have, how much room I have here. This guy is actually just an electron carrier. So his job is just to move electrons to where they're supposed to go. Okay, so this NADP+, the electron and the hydrogen all join together to make a big molecule. And that big molecule is called NADPH. Now this guy stores some energy, not a lot of energy, but he does store a little bit of energy. So he is going to move into the stroma, and he's going to be used in the Calvin cycle. So the first part of photosynthesis, that's where we're breaking the water down and we're making oxygen, but we're also making some energy so the second part of photosynthesis can actually happen. We have to have some energy for it, okay? Now our very last part up here in the thylakoid membrane, this gray structure, okay, this guy is an enzyme. So he's actually an enzyme. His name is ATP synthase. ATP synthase. Like synthesis, ATP synthase. So we need this enzyme to make ATP, and we need ATP so we have more energy in the Calvin cycle. Okay? So before ATP can be made, this extra hydrogen ion that we haven't done anything with yet, he moves over, he slides down, and he goes inside of the enzyme, and he literally it's like he unlocked the gates so the enzyme can work. So the hydrogen goes up, goes through this enzyme, and I'm just going to write over here, I'm going to say he's the gatekeeper. He opens the enzyme and allows it to start working. Gatekeepers. So I'm going to say open enzyme. He's the guy with the starting gun at the start line. Okay? When the hydrogen ions go through the enzyme, it's like, hey, I can work, I've opened up, great. So now ADP attaches to a phosphate and makes ATP, which is really what we need because we need that energy for the next step. So that ATP is going to move into the stroma, and it is going to be used in the Calvin cycle. Okay, so I'm going to come down here. I'm not going to look at this right now. So our reaction was CO2 plus H2O yields C6H12O6 plus O2. So right now what we've dealt with is we've dealt with the water, okay? The water was in the light-dependent reaction, right? Okay, so we broke the water down. And then the oxygen, we made the oxygen as well. That is in the light-dependent reaction. So far, those are the only two things we've dealt with. We've used the water, and we've made oxygen. All of this electron, blah, 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 all that stuff gives us the two molecules that give us the energy for all of this to happen. Okay? You good, Kobe? Okay, so now the second part is where we're going to look at the carbon dioxide and the glucose. Okay, so this is the Calvin cycle. This box right here, this represents an enzyme. I'm going to write enzyme. That box represents an enzyme. That enzyme has a weird name. It is called rubisco. R-U-B-I-S-C-O. Like not Nabisco crackers, but rubisco. So rubisco's job is to do something called carbon fixation. So what carbon fixation is it is taking carbon from this carbon dioxide molecule and stripping it from the molecule and taking it and using it to make a carbohydrate. Okay? So carbon fixation, I'm going to scoot this over a little bit, and I'm going to write strip CO2 of carbon to make a carb. So carbon fixation is stripping carbon dioxide of its carbon atom to make a carbohydrate. Now that's kind of easy terms. Technically, its carbon fixation is taking an inorganic carbon molecule like CO2 and making it organic like a carbohydrate. Okay, so this is what happens. Rubisco does his job. He takes that carbon and he puts it over here. He's not done. He's going to take that carbon and he's going to add it to a very small carbohydrate. So Rubisco takes the carbon from the carbon dioxide. He adds it to a very small carbohydrate to make C6H12O6, which is our glucose. So now, that's one of our reactants, and here is our other product. So if we were to come down here to our reaction, carbon dioxide is used in, I'm going to put CC Calvin cycle. Carbon dioxide is used in the Calvin cycle. Under my C6H12O6, I'm going to write made in Calvin cycle. So, the whole purpose of photosynthesis is to break down water, make oxygen gas, and to make some energy for the Calvin cycle. And then to break down carbon dioxide to make glucose. What I'm missing? Oh, break him down to make him. Break him down to make him. Oh, that's it. That's 4. Gotcha. And these guys are energy providers. So don't let all the H pluses and the electrons confuse you. Their job is to make these two molecules that provide energy for this process. Okay? Now, that's it for photosynthesis. We will practice and we will go over this the next few days and you'll have it down packed.